Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of the Shooting Czars Euros podcast. I'm Stewart Marshall, and with me, as always, is Bryce, Conway, and Alex Grant. Boys, what a weekend it proved to be. Hello.
Hey, Stewie. How you going, mate?
Hey, Stu. Hey, Bryce.
How was the weekend, boys? Granty, we'll start with you. Your team, our team, England. They got the all-important result last night against Croatia, a 1-0 win, thanks to a Raheem Sterling winner, but it wasn't that convincing, was it? How did you see it?
I loved it. I thought it was a great game. I think especially the first 20 minutes, England dominated. I think Croatia got back into the game. And I think that Croatia really they're a bit of an awkward team to play against. They've got a few players probably who weren't involved in the World Cup, and they're trying to mold together a new kind of squad. But I thought they definitely came into the game after about 20 minutes, in England, after being on the front foot, really kind of, struggled to grab hold of the game before half time. But in the second half, the early goal definitely helped, and England managed to hold out from there, really. But credit to Croatia as well, because they played quite well, and I think they can take some confidence out of the performance as well.
Bryce, how did you see things? I mean, Croatia are a good team, remember. They did make the World Cup final. I think a lot gets made of England's games, whether they win, lose, or draw. How did you view the game last night?
Well, I'm a bit fortunate I'm not in the studio next to Grant, because I disagree with him quite a bit with his sentiment towards the game. I feel Croatia's team is way too similar to the side that played in the World Cup, and it's quite an aging side, and they just looked tired and slow. Whereas England's got a refreshed squad with a lot of young talent and new ideas coming through. I thought that, again, I agree with Granty, in that first 15 to 20 was immense. And I thought in those opening stages, I thought, geez, England are going to win the tournament here. It was fantastic with Foden hitting the post. He was looking fantastic at the start. I thought Harry Kane was uncharacteristically lethargic, and the attack really didn't work for England. But I thought the defence and midfield was immense. Calvin Phillips, I would have thought, in my eyes, he was man of the match. I think for a lot of people, he was man of the match. And Sterling got it, and I thought he really struggled despite the goal. And then, I thought Bellingham coming on was awesome. I mean, he's the youngest player to ever play in the European Championships now. We'll have a question for the listeners into who was the youngest before him, but we'll crack on with that later. But I just thought Mings was really good as well. I thought he read the game extremely well as a centre back there, and I thought his distribution is obviously not his strongest point. You could see that at times, but the way he read the game and his positioning I thought it was outstanding. And I think Croatia, I thought they were just quite toothless up front and really didn't offer much. Even when they were able to get their footing in the game, they just really didn't create anything. So I don't know whether it's a testament to how strong England's defence is or how toothless Croatia were in the attacking third.
Yeah, I can't actually remember Croatia having a decent chance. Can you? I mean, it seems like they've missed it there, but England just couldn't put them away in that opening sort of period of the game, and that's, I guess, what made England fans around the world sort of nervous. Alex, what did you make of the team selection in the end?
I think it surprised us, didn't it, a little bit? And playing Kieran Trippier at left back was probably the major curveball, and even including Sterling in there to some extent. But there was probably 500,000 England managers on Twitter last night before the game, and all saying, their own formations and teams. And at the end of the day, Gareth Southgate's the one who makes the decisions, and on this occasion it's paid off. So you just got to back Southgate's decisions, like I said, and hopefully it goes well. And I think Trippier, although he's not used to playing on the left, I think he fitted in quite well. Kyle Walker was the surprising one.
Oh my God.
Performance-wise, I think defensively he was sound, which he always generally is, and his pace makes up for a lot of that. But on the ball was really poor, which was surprising from him. But besides that, Phillips and Rice were solid. Like Bryce said, I don't think Harry Kane was lethargic. I just think like if you've watched Tottenham play throughout the course of the season, he just drifts in and out of games. He's one of those strikers that you don't really see much of him for the majority of the game, and he can just pop up with that one chance. I know he had one in the second half where the ball got crossed over to the back stick and the defender just put him off and he smashed into the post. But he could have took that, he could have took that one away, and you turn around and say, oh, well, Harry Kane's had a good game, because generally that's his style of play. He's one of those strikers that seems to always be in the right place at the right time. And even if you don't see, I think if you don't see much of him throughout the course of the game, then you kind of had that opinion on him that maybe he's had his best game, but he works a lot off the ball as well to dictate where the opposition play the ball out from the back, I think, as well. So yeah, it was Foden as well. He was another player who he had a good first 20 minutes and then kind of went into his shell a little and was not disappointing. But I think all of the England players, like I said, and going back to my point, Bryce, I think that, like I said, I don't think it was an amazing performance from Croatia. I just felt that they were just awkward. They kind of put themselves about a bit, and okay, both teams at the end of the day created eight attempts on goal, so they were even on that account. But the chances that Croatia had, like you said, weren't very convincing. But I think Modric had a few nice spells in the middle, especially in that first half. And what's the other boy, the lad who's at Real Madrid and Chelsea? Kovacic. You could tell he was as well. He was good in spells. Yeah, very good. So yeah, all in all, like I said, England can take more confidence out of their performance, but Croatia can. I think Croatia will get through the group.
Yes. Now, we did put a call out on Instagram today. And for those that maybe don't follow us on Instagram, please do. We're at Shooting Zars, and you can follow us on Twitter as well at Zars Shootings. We do at Zars Shooting. We do try and keep you updated via socials. But we put out a question, or asked for people to send in questions today on Twitter, and we actually got 4 back, guys. Can you believe it? So I'll thank you to my brother David and Alex's brother Angus for contributing 50% of those questions, but they're questions nonetheless.
I like it in house. It's good.
Yeah.
In a sanctum.
This is a family affair.
Yeah.
But let's roll through these questions and see what people had to say. First off, we'll start with John Turner, who's sent in a couple questions actually since we started doing the Euros podcast, Alex. But today, John Turner, he sent in, if Granty could wear any England kit from the past or present for the rest of his life, what is he choosing?
Great question.
Oh. You know which one I saw today actually on the TV? I think it was on last night before the game. Was that, you know what? I don't know what tournament it's from. I think it's the 2002 World Cup one with the red. It's like the line that goes through the England badge and runs along the chest.
Yeah, reminds me of Beckham, that one.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah.
That I think because
Beckham's
that's
long sleeve white.
Yeah.
And
I think I've just got memories of Beckham scoring that free kick at Old Trafford against
Greece.
Was it against Greece? Yeah, to qualify for the World Cup. I think for me that is probably the one I'd wear, or the one I could see myself. I think just because at that time as well, when I was younger and football was, I still live and breathe it now, but it was just everything then, and that was probably the kit. I was what, like 8 or 9 or something like that, and just idolized all these players. Still do.
All right, question one.
That's the one.
There we go. Thanks for sending that in, John. All right, back on the England game. David Marshall sends in, how does it look subbing your captain in the first game? We did see that towards the end of the game. Us 3 were chatting on our chat at the time, and I actually said that as well. Harry Kane going off. It was, a little bit surprising. England were only 1-0 up at the time. I think he went off in the 80th minute or thereabouts. And who came on for him? Was it Jude Bellingham was the substitute that came on for him?
Was it not Rashford?
I thought it was a good decision. No, it was Bellingham that came on for Kane. Yeah, for the final 9 minutes, I think it was. I just thought it showed how much faith that they've got in Bellingham at such a young age to come on and shore up the midfield in an opening game of a major European tournament. So, And he did well as well. I thought he did really well, put himself about and shored things up. So, look, Kane's, yes, he's captain, but him being up front and having not had the best game that he could have possibly had, I don't think it was too strange when I saw it. I think when you look at it and go, captain Harry Kane replaced by the youngest ever player, it seems odd, but I thought it looked like it made sense to me when it happened.
Yep. Granty, what do you reckon about that?
Look, I don't think it's too big a deal. Like I said before, I think Harry Kane works a lot off the ball that, generally most people don't see. So he definitely put a shift in. Okay, he didn't get his goal last night, but he's definitely put up a good display off the ball, like I said, and it's probably giving him rest going into the Scotland game, which is coming up. So, and then again, it's also flip it on its head. It's a good experience for Bellingham, and like Bryce has said, he's definitely got the ability and seems comfortable on that stage, even though it was only like a little cameo at the end. But even coming on for the last 10 minutes, it's still, in a major tournament, it's a massive responsibility he's got, and he's got to see out the job, and he did that well.
Yeah, I guess you can't really complain about the manager's decision in any game if they get the win, right? Isn't that fair, Bryce?
Yeah, definitely. I think it all depends on the result that comes after. They would have been seen a fool if they conceded, but because he got the job done, it was a sound decision. Everything's okay. I just would love to note how funny it was when Harry Kane was trying to give his captain's armband off. Croatia showed the urgency they hadn't shown 90 minutes in trying to get that bloody armband off Kane and giving it to someone else so they could crack on with the game. I just thought that was so funny. You just see Kane was a bit just like, I just thought, can just someone grab it? And that was
I think Sterling
to get it done.
Sterling had trouble getting rid of it as well when he was brought off as well, didn't he? So
yeah,
nice and slow. Good shit.
Nobody wanted it.
You love to see it.
It is funny that, because we had it in the A-League last year. I can't remember who we were playing, but it was when we were in the hub at the end of the season. And we made a joke after the game about certain people wearing the armband, and someone else was going to wear it the following week. I think James Meredith ended up with it at one point. And if you met Mes,
stalwart.
great guy, absolute legend of a guy, but you don't see him as one of those players who's like the lead, always talking on the pitch, that kind of thing. The one you look up to. But
yeah,
no disrespect.
Boots are too fancy for that.
No disrespect.
Yeah, but he ended up with it at the end of the game, and we were all laughing at the end of it as to him having it. It was brilliant.
All right, next question. Angus Grant says, if you were Gareth Southgate, would you keep a winning team, or would you make changes? We need to get the likes of Mason Mount, Phil Foden, and Harry Kane more involved. 3 points is what matters, but it wasn't a great performance. Granty, I'll give you the first rebuttal at that question to your brother.
He's probably about 6 pints deep when he's tweet. When did he tweet this? Today?
This is today.
All right. Oh, he's probably a bit hungover then. Surprised he even watched the game. But I know. I think he'll change it. I do. I really do. I think he's not been a stranger to changing the lineups in the past, and even yesterday, like I touched on, it was such an odd one throwing Trippier at left back over Shaw, who's been probably one of the best left backs in the Premier League all season.
Yeah,
but he's obviously just going with his gut feeling on the day, and I think he'll probably do the same against Scotland, and he'll obviously analyse the opposition, look at where their strengths and weaknesses are. He may feel they need to go more defensive, or maybe, let the floodgates open a little and chuck Grealish on instead of maybe Rice or Phillips this week, and drop Mount back in with either of them. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think my gut feeling is that he will make a couple of changes.
What do you reckon, Bryce? That Luke Shaw, Kieran Trippier decision is an interesting one. I think it raised a few eyebrows. I mean, what a confidence knocker that may be for Luke Shaw. Or how big of a confidence shaker is that for Luke Shaw?
I don't think you should take it too personally. I think it should be more about how good Kieran Trippier is and has been for England. I think he excelled at the World Cup with him, and he's a player that Gareth Southgate trusts, and he's a player that Diego Simeone trusts, a player that Pochettino trusted a lot, and he's a class player, and he's shown that on the world stage in the biggest tournaments. So I think Kieran Trippier is a better player than Luke Shaw. And when you're at that level and he can still produce on the other side of defence, I think it's a testament to how good he is rather than not about Shaw's quality. I think it should be more praising Kieran Trippier. But I do think he will change the squad up because Gareth Southgate putting a team out to kind of combat and nullify the threats of Kovacic and Modric in central midfield with Rice and Phillips there. So that's two more defensive-minded players. You're going to stop their flow. But against Scotland, they're not going to be coming up as strong a midfield. So I think he'll stick with either one of Rice and Phillips, and he'll have one of either Grealish or Mount out there to be a bit more of an attacking threat, because they will have more space and opportunity to attack from midfield against Scotland than they will against Croatia, especially in that midfield, second, third.
Quick word on Calvin Phillips, Alex. What was it? The Yorkshire Pirlo?
Okay, let's not get carried away. But, great nickname, mate. What a performance! I think he just looks so comfortable in every essence on the pitch. He just breaks up play so well. I think the little things like giving away smart fouls just to break up play that people maybe don't recognise, maybe they do, but little things like that when you're actually playing, you look at someone like that and go, and you just filled with so much encouragement to do well further in the game. It's kind of little things like that can kind of spur teammates on, and I think he does that really well. He reads the game really well, and the ball for the goal was class. He just skipped away from the defender and then slipped Sterling, and it was all round the top performance from him.
Yeah, he's proving to off one game at least, he's cemented his spot, I would suspect. I guess we'll be seeing a lot more of Calvin Phillips in the coming games. Great stuff, England. It'll be interesting to see what Gareth Southgate does with the team, and whether Jadon Sancho, I don't know whether he was carrying a knock, but him and Chilwell didn't even make the 23 matchday squad. So plenty of options there at England. That was obviously a big surprise as well. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that all progresses. Hopefully Harry Kane can fire and find a bit of form, and we can score a few more goals as well. But yeah, that's England. Plenty more to come today. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about the Euros and sort of what's happened over the past couple of days, but we're going to touch on a little bit more on Australian football. The A-League, obviously, finals is getting to the business end of the season now. There's sort of rumours swirling around who Ange Postecoglou is going to bring with him to Celtic. We'll discuss a couple of those. And then a couple of the stories that we touched on in the last podcast, in the Premier League at least. They're sort of bubbling away nicely, and there's some sort of updates there. So that's all to come, as well as a special chat with Daniel Garb, who's now with the ABC Grandstand Football Podcast. He was good enough to join us for a quick chat to discuss all things in the world of football. So stay tuned for that. But let's have a look at some other results from yesterday. You got Netherlands 3, Ukraine 2, Bryce. This seems to be the general consensus from everyone, at least on Twitter, is that this is the game of the tournament thus far. What do you think?
Yeah, that's verbatim my note at the top for this game. It was game of the tournament so far. It was great. I just think I missed Gini Wijnaldum already. He's obviously secured the bag at PSG with a fat paycheck there, so all the best to him. But I think he showed why he was in such high demand, and Barcelona lost out to a bidding war with or PSG wages-wise. I thought he was class throughout the game. I think Netherlands had quite a few chances to bury him properly in that first half. Didn't take them, obviously, until for the scoring there. But just Ukraine coming back. They looked dead and buried, Ukraine. Then Yarmolenko of West Ham, of course.
What a goal.
Absolute belter. And it was just very much one of those Arjen Robben moments where you're just like, don't let him come on his left. Don't let him come on his left.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, he's
you could see it happening
on his left, and he's curled it. Yeah, it was perfect. What a strike. I looked up Yarmolenko. I feel like he's been at that 30 odd for the past 10 years. and I found out he was born in Russia, in St. Petersburg, the Ukrainian. So that was an interesting one for him. But just like, he's got that in him, but I feel he doesn't do it consistently enough. So it'll be interesting to see if he can crack on and do that a bit more in the Premier League next season. But yeah, cracking game. Netherlands look good, but then they look terrible for a period, especially defensively. But no, a lot of exciting players for the Netherlands, and yeah, it's a belter of a game. What you would hope for in a Euros.
Alex, did you see that one, or did you see the goals at least? What did you make of that result, just quickly?
Yeah, I saw the goals. Bit early for me to be getting up and watching that one, but
with a little baby as well, mate. We forgive you.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, I mean,
family pod this one.
Yeah, it's yeah. Very, okay, all right.
It's a family affair.
It is. Yeah, for them to let slip a 2-goal lead is probably a little nervy for Netherlands going into the next game, and the fans are probably aren't entirely convinced now after that. But it shows they've got character to get the winner anyway. And like Bryce said, Wijnaldum, I think he was probably one of the best players in the Prem, and it is a shame for Liverpool to lose him. And I think he's going to be pivotal in this tournament for the Netherlands.
He's getting better with age. Wijnaldum, he's only 30, I suppose. He's got plenty more years to come. Let's take a quick look at Austria 3, North Macedonia 1. Alex, your man from your Stoke City days, Marko Arnautovic, who we've spoke about on this podcast a few seasons ago, for those that may be interested. I think it was in the World Cup series. So we're going back a while, but the man that notoriously rocked up to training every day at Stoke in a different car. He was a man about town, plenty of talent, and he proved it last night with a neat goal. Austria 3, North Macedonia 1. So it's a good start for them as well.
Yeah, cracking. Some player. I also had Dan Batman, the goalkeeper, who's now at Watford. He was in my reserve team at Stoke as well. But I think he messed up for the Macedonia's goal. But he's a good keeper.
There's a bit of a defensive mix up there. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think Austria, they'll probably be looking at progressing through the group. I think they showed, from what I saw from the England game prior to the start of the tournament, they looked pretty decent. So, yeah, going on from here, I think they should get through easy.
All right, let's take a look at Saturday games now. Obviously, the big story was the Christian Eriksen incident. Thankfully, he's okay. I'm sure everyone sort of knows what's happened there. Awful to look at, awful to think about. Thank God he's okay, as I mentioned. Denmark somehow continued and finished off their game. Their coaches come out today and said that they sort of regret doing that because, I suppose that they didn't end up getting the result they wanted, Bryce. It was a 1-0 loss to Finland, obviously in trying circumstances. I think, no one can really sort of, say anything other than best wishes to Christian Eriksen from that one. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I was actually watching it. I was in bed watching the game on my laptop, and you could just see as soon as he went to run for that throw in, his balance was lost, and it was very evident how serious it was very quickly. And the referee did a fantastic job was it Anthony Taylor, I think?
Anthony Taylor, Premier League ref.
Reacted so quickly to the danger and alerted the medics. Everyone came on, and I think it was one of those moments that kind of showed the fraternity that you have within football and how the team came together to form that kind of guard around him and, show their togetherness. And I mean, being in front of his friends and family, his hometown in Copenhagen as well, it made you feel sick watching it. You kind of forgot about the football side of things for a while, which is very powerful, obviously. And it's so good to hear that he's stable in hospital now, but you hear some horror stories from the moments, and he had a cardiac arrest and he lost his pulse there. So it's just obviously an amazing footballer, but it's bigger than that. And just really glad he's okay. But just an awful moment. And I did find it quite strange to continue the game. I thought that was quite strange. I don't know who. I mean, they obviously make that decision there, but if them saying in hindsight they probably shouldn't have done it. But I just think the whole thing is bizarre. It's weird to kind of cast judgment or comment on because it's a situation that's just you never would have thought you'd find yourself in.
Yeah, you almost kind of feel like you shouldn't talk about it. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys feel that, but yeah, I mean, Alex, I'll throw it to you. I guess you being a player and having toured around, have you sort of seen anything like that before? Obviously, we've seen it before. A very similar incident with Fabrice Muamba, who suffered something very similar in the Premier League match against Spurs. I think Bolton v Spurs, roughly 10 years ago now, but. Yeah, what did you make of it? Have you kind of ever seen that on your travels as a professional footballer?
I haven't, Stu, no. And look, thank God I haven't, because even watching it on TV was, harrowing enough. It was, wasn't good to watch, wasn't good to see. I think, a lot of the TV outlets copped a lot of stick for leaving the broadcast on, and it's a real tough one for them, because at the end of the day, like, everyone's expecting him to get up and clap the fans and walk off. So for them to cut the broadcast, it was shocking to see him performing CPR out on the pitch, and nobody wants to see that. But at the end of the day, these things can happen and do happen. Like you've just touched on. So I think it certainly raises awareness as well as to, how important it is for us to learn certain things like CPR and things like this in case this ever does happen to anyone, whether it being yourself or friends or family or whoever. What to do in the circumstances. And a credit to the doctors and the medical staff who were first on hand, even the players to some extent, because they read the situation straight off the bat, didn't they? And started, I think, moving Eriksen into the right position and began CPR. And yeah, credit to them, really. Like I said, so it's something we don't want to see, but unfortunately it can and probably will happen again. So
yeah, the captain Simon Kjaer was one of the first to kind of put him on his side and make sure his airways were cleared. So it's just showing that kind of poise in those moments is just could have saved his life. It's just amazing, the response from everyone involved.
Yeah, and the plaudits are flowing in for these players. I think keeper Kasper Schmeichel was another one, which supposedly or did not supposedly did a lot of good things at the time and really rallied everyone. But yeah, I mean, it can happen. It seems like it can happen at a very young age. So everyone out there, us included, learning CPR definitely is a big takeaway out of this, because you just never really know when you may need it. But thankfully, Christian Eriksen is okay, and he got through it, and he's up and sending FaceTimes and joking around now with his friends and family in hospital and communicating with his club and his national team. So that's the positive out of what has been a very sad situation this weekend. And hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and we see him again. That's the big one as well. Hopefully we do see him again in a Denmark shirt, but we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens there. And I guess his club mate, Romelu Lukaku, who's banging the goals in club and country these days, did a fitting tribute to Christian Eriksen in the hours after the incident on Saturday in Belgium's 3-0 win over Russia. Romelu Lukaku scored 2 goals. His first goal was dedicated to Eriksen. He ran over to the camera and, said a couple of nice, kind words. But that aside, Bryce, what did you make of the Belgian results and how they sort of played against Russia?
Look, I think I picked them at the start for me to be the favourites for me, Belgium. And I think they've done no harm to their chances there. I thought they were fantastic. Lukaku's at the peak of his powers now. He's at a club that I feel like he feels appreciated. The things are flowing for him and he's got that confidence. It's just great to see. He's a powerhouse. He's
finally found that club that plays Champions League I kind of feel like he's been wanting that for quite a while, right? And like sort of went to United wanting like exactly like this.
Big club.
Knew he was good enough for the big stage and for a big club, and Inter's finally that player that club that has provided him that.
Yeah, preach it. I think you stole the words right out of my mouth there. Fantastically put.
What did you make of it, Granty? Lukaku, does he impress you every time you watch him? Is he a defender's nightmare? He definitely is.
Oh, he's a weapon, and he's such a beast, so much strength and power, and a guy who, for his size, can finish a ball. You know, he can put it in the back of the net.
Yep.
From every angle. And it's just so frustrating for me as a Man United fan to see him scoring. Yeah. I think because at United he just wasn't. I don't know whether it was because of Mourinho or what, but just never really looked like he was going to set the world alight. And it just seems that I think he's had that over his career, and like you've said, now he's finally got the confidence at Inter. And he's banging the goals in for fun, so he's obviously carried that on into the tournament. And I saw something on Twitter the other day, and people were tipping him for the golden boot, and I'd actually forgotten about him, to be honest with you. It didn't come to mind straight off the bat. But now looking at that and obviously seeing his first performance, I think he's going to be right up there without a doubt.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's been plenty of money placed on him, and I think there'll be a lot more placed on him now. But yeah, I agree with you. I probably didn't really. Maybe he does fly under the radar nowadays, I guess, now that he's in Italy.
Because he's left the Prem, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose we're just one-eyed Premier League followers, but there's plenty of other football out there, especially in Europe. Belgium 3, Russia 0. Statement there from Belgium. Quickly, Wales 1, Switzerland 1. Bit of a, cagey back and forth there. Kiefer Moore, I believe, was the Welsh goal scorer. The Swiss goal scorer escapes my memory from this point, but I guess they got a point, Wales, Bryce, didn't they?
Yeah, death taxes in an alpine country such as Switzerland being in a bloody draw. It was Wales were definitely under the pump there, especially in that last 15 to 20 minutes. I think they defended really well. There was obviously a disallowed goal for Switzerland near the end there. But yeah, I think Wales definitely deserved the point, but Austria probably the better side at the end of the day there.
Switzerland.
Did I say Austria?
You said.
Alpine countries again. They blend into one. But I just think my favourite moment was when the goal got disallowed. Just the Wales fans and their classic bucket hats giving it loads to the Swiss fans was brilliant. So that was the highlight I got from that game. A bit of an uninspiring match all in all. I say probably the highlight was the fans, and then I think Joe Allen was marking Embolo. Embolo scored the goal for Switzerland, but he was marking him at corners. Joe Allen's like the smallest man on the pitch, marking Embolo, who's just an athletic specimen, really tall, absolutely so strong and everything. It was so funny to see it on the pitch, and it consistently happened. It wasn't an accident. Joe Allen must be the best set piece marker in history with that height difference. So yeah, not a game to remember, that's for sure. But again, Switzerland and Austria, yeah.
They're off the mark, I suppose. They've both got points. Yeah. And, the final game to look at was the opening game of the tournament. That was on Friday night, European time, Saturday morning, Australian time. Italy 3, Turkey 0. Ciro Immobile and Insigne really turned it on there, Alex, didn't they? I mean, bit of a statement from Italy. For those that are maybe watching on YouTube, you may see that I've got the stylish as ever Roberto Mancini, and what I can only assume is his assistant manager next to him. How's the kit though? How's the kit? Look what they wear, It's so good. An Italian chic. But Italy 3, Turkey 0. Surprising result, given some people have sort of tipped Italy as a smoky, Turkey as a smoky, or Italy that cut above, Alex.
Yeah, he should have gone back to the Wales game because I watched that one.
There we go.
Never mind. But I've seen the goals. I haven't seen the game. But what can I say?
They were dominant, mate. I'll tell you that much.
Italy won. So there you go. That's all I can take from it.
Right, Bryce, let's leave him out of. Let's just start. You and me will start a podcast, Bryce.
Yeah, right. Go on. Yeah, go on.
Take over there, mate. Or let's wrap this game up. Italy just dominant sort of from the get-go. They had so much of the ball in the first half. Looked like they were going to score. I mean, Insigne had a glorious chance in the first half. He sort of had 3 of the same chance and scored the third one. They just looked dynamite, and definitely deserved their 3-0 victory. Probably could have had another couple, but what do you think?
I think it was just classic showman style, oozing confidence and a bit of hubris about him. Italy, it was good to see they had a bit of swagger about him again after a pretty lackluster couple last tournaments for them. And I think Italy singing the national anthem is one of the best things in world football for me. It's so great.
That's the wonderful
passion. Oh, it's just the best, isn't it? They if you don't support Italy, they cop a bit of criticism from a lot of people for their theatrics on the pitch, but they add so much colour to every tournament. So it's great to see them back on the big stage there. And yeah, just seeing Chiellini sing the national anthem alone is fantastic, but thoroughly deserved win. Turkey looked dodgy and surprisingly dodgy at the back. Pardon me, considering who they've got there. But yeah, I think Italy are going to prove a few people wrong and make up for a bit of lost time, because they didn't play in the World Cup, did they?
No, I think they were the
big
the World
name.
Cup.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it's good. I think a tournament is better having Italy in it for the colour and passion that they add for it, and they're setting their marker now that they're not there just to make up the numbers.
Yeah,
in fashion and on the pitch, because those suits are just brilliant.
Yes, and if you're not watching the YouTube version, skip over to YouTube and watch the video here, because Roberto Mancini is looking great, and I'm sure it's going to continue.
Raheem Sterling's getting off behind me.
He is, and then Jenny Wijnaldum is now the background for Bryce, but he started off with something else. I can't actually remember.
It was Iceland doing the Viking clap, and this time I've got Wijnaldum does the Van Dijk celebration.
That's right.
Van Dijk would be wearing that skipper's armband if he wasn't injured, so it's a bit of paying ode to him.
Go on, Al. What were you going to say?
Sorry, just going back to the national anthems, Bryce. I actually put a tweet out last night. Or was it the night before? I can't remember. But for me, my favourite is the Welsh national anthem.
Yeah, you're right. It is fantastic. Yeah.
I think for me, it's followed by the Flower of Scotland, but they're my two favourites. The Wales tops it, the Welsh one. I don't know what you guys think is your favourite. Stu, have you got a favourite one?
I know, actually, I haven't really thought about it, if I'm being completely honest. It's
Argentina's is another belter, actually.
Yeah.
I like the French national anthem.
They're not in it, Bryce. Come on, we're the Euros.
Yeah, we said international football. Oh, expand your mind, mate. Come on. Not just Europe, not the only continent. Come on.
Plenty of other football in the world. The Copa America, of course, is happening concurrently in Brazil right now. So
imagine the amount of extra time in that tournament for all the bloody jumping about there.
There's no fans there, though. At least that's something to savour from the Euros. There's not a single fan in the stadium given the COVID situation in Brazil. So definitely a positive of how the COVID situation is looking in Europe these days. But yes, let's have a quick look at the games to come. Obviously, we're recording this, 10:30 at night, Sydney time at least. So at the time of recording, it's Monday night here, Australian time. You got Scotland v Czech Republic, Spain v Sweden, probably the match of the group stage thus far, or the tournament thus far, is France v Germany. That's a bit of a blockbuster. And then you got Portugal, Hungary. News that João Cancelo of Portugal has now contracted COVID. So this is what I was saying last pod, is there's potentially going to be players just dropping out of squads and whatnot for each game because of the ongoing coronavirus situation globally. But let's take a little look at Scotland now. We haven't spoke much about Scotland yet, Alex.
I brought them up last week.
Oh, you did, I suppose. Well,
you just haven't, Stu. Come on.
Yeah, sorry. Let's talk more in depth about them.
I'm just looking at the lineup now. So they kick off in half an hour.
So by the time that this comes out and people listen, they would have already got the result. But what do you reckon? Maybe make a bold prediction now for this game, so then people that maybe listen to this, I'm
going to say 2-1 Scotland.
What do you think about the lineup? Talk us through the team.
Yeah, well, according to Live Score, they're playing 5 at the back. Robertson, Grant Hanley, Norwich defender. Marshall in goal, McSauce in the middle, centre midfield bossing it, Scott McTominay. I think, on paper they've got a pretty decent squad. Robertson probably one of the best left backs in the world. Would you say, Bryce?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Leader, legend. Yeah.
So there you go. And Lyndon Dykes up top. I mean, he had the opportunity to play for Australia. Was that right? Did he play a couple of friendlies for the Socceroos?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously he's gone with Scotland. So yeah, I think they'll get over the line. I actually like Scotland. I want them to do well. I don't want them to beat England on Saturday, but yeah.
Is this the first time, I think, during our lifetime that we've seen Scotland at a major tournament? I think since we've been around, Scotland have been quite poor on the international front football. So I think it's just great them being there.
They were at 96, weren't they?
I think so.
Yeah, 2 years old. I guess we didn't really get to soak that one up.
Hey, we were alive though.
I did.
You did, yeah, right, okay.
Soaked it right up.
But
mate.
it's just great. It's just great seeing them in there. I can't wait to hear the national anthem in about half an hour. I mean, they've got Kieran Tierney and Robertson, probably two of the premier left backs in the world. It's just a bit of a shame they both can't play on that left hand flank. Is Tierney on the bench?
I don't think he is actually. No, he must be injured.
There we go. He didn't
Yeah.
make the match day squad. All right. What
He's
about
injured, then he's too good.
who's the biggest threat in the Czech Republic lineup that you can see right now, Alex, looking at your live score app?
Milan Baroš.
Throw me under the bus here again.
Hey, we want preparation on this podcast.
Suchek. There you go.
Suchek. There we go. Thomas Suchek.
What a
Suchek
player.
for West Ham.
Yeah, he's done very well at West Ham, so he's probably the only one I know.
And that's
paper,
fine, mate.
so there you go. It is. Look, there you go. Thomas Suchek. He's going to score 4.
No, but that's good for the listeners at least. You know, they have hard hitting punditry here. Gary Neville-esque that was, Alex. Tell you that much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, Bryce. Let's have a Spain v Sweden. Okay, let's talk about France v Germany. Obviously, Spain v Sweden, also an important game, but for the being conscious of time as well. France v Germany, blockbuster game, biggest game of the tournament, I think, so far. What do you reckon? Who's coming out on top?
I think undoubtedly it's probably going to be the biggest matchup of the whole tournament, I guess, in terms of European powerhouses there. But Germany have got a lot to prove after their failure at the World Cup to get past the group stages. So they've got a lot to prove, but it's going to be exciting seeing the likes of Havertz and Timo Werner link up on the main stage there. I just think France are going to beat them though. I think I'll say 3-1 to France. I think France will be far too strong for them, but actually, 2-1. 2-1. I think Germany have definitely improved, so I'll go 2-1, and there's a few German players in form. So 2-1 to France is my tip.
The French team's just so deep. It's kind of just so hard to look past them. And Garby said a lot of this in our chat, but God, they have players for days, don't they, Bryce?
Exactly. I mean, Granty just went through the Czech Republic squad, and we just had Souček to kind of that we recognise as a player that we all know. You go through that France squad, and you don't even have to follow football to know a majority of those names. The likes of Kante and Pogba, Griezmann. It's an unreal squad. It's world class. Obviously, showed that winning the World Cup, but it'll be interesting to see how they back it up if they can repeat Spain's epic double there.
Interesting story that sort of came out in the past couple of days was Olivier Giroud going public with some criticism of his teammates. I don't know if you guys saw that, but then Kylian Mbappe sort of clapped back in the past couple of days, sort of saying that Giroud was wrong to say that about some teammates. So, yeah, that's
why would you say that?
Yeah,
why would you do that now? It's so weird.
I don't know the ins and outs of it, but maybe Alex, we'll get a bit of comment from you while I pull up some quotes here. I mean, has that ever happened to you, or have you ever been in a situation like that where maybe someone in your team has maybe said something which has unsettled the squad, and how would that be received by the other players, do you think? Obviously not well.
I think you're waffling a lot of bollocks here, mate, to be honest with you. I'm not having this story. No way has he come out and said anything negative.
Do you reckon someone's taken him off record or something like that?
Possibly. No. I don't know. We'll have to see. Come on, Stu, hurry up, get him up.
Yeah. No, but just talk about a situation like that in general, when maybe a coach says something publicly or a player says something publicly that doesn't go down well with the team.
I think the majority of the time, or the majority of the squads that I've been involved in, the managers have controlled the dressing room and what is said within that dressing room quite well. And the majority of managers I've had have never criticised us or criticised, the team I've played in publicly. I think that's one key to keeping morale within a squad is not openly blasting or smashing players. Okay, some players don't perform and you may comment that they've not been up to the standard this week or whatever, but to criticise someone constantly or give them abuse is probably not the right way of going about things. Don't get me wrong, when the doors are closed and everyone's in that dressing room, I have witnessed and seen some harsh words being thrown around, and some reality checks as well. And even one-on-one meetings with managers, sometimes you can think you're doing well and the sales taken from underneath you. So it's an interesting one, especially with them coming into the first game. Have you got them up? Have I rambled on enough there for you to go on and throw them out?
Look, I think what you said is true. There's basically Giroud said he's making plenty of runs and he's not getting the service, and it's frustrating. And then Kylian Mbappe sort of said he's allowed to say what he wants. It doesn't bother me. But if I had an option, I would have preferred he say it in the changing rooms and not publicly. So not the biggest beef ever. Definitely a bit of a media drama, but nonetheless, another storyline. Maybe this is what the media are doing, trying to derail France's campaign, and these are the kind of things that they sort of look for. And
maybe his words have been twisted slightly, or it would seem, but who knows?
Who knows? Anyway, moving on. Potential beef there in France, but nonetheless, they're gonna big game against Germany. We'll have to see how it pans out. As I mentioned, Portugal v Hungary again. Their team's a joke. We'll have to see how. I think that's match day. No, that's match day 1 for them. They haven't played yet. But we will discuss all that in the next pod. Just quickly, we mentioned last week, Alex, you brought up this third place finish rule. For those that maybe listened in and were wondering and maybe didn't find out what that is. Essentially, what's happening, because there's 24 teams in the Euros this year. So that's 6 groups. Yeah, that's my maths is correct. So there's basically 4 spots left to progress. So out of the top 4 teams, so the top 4 third place finishers also progress. So at the end of the group stage, whoever finished third out of the 6 groups, 4 of the top best 4 will progress. So that's to make up the round.
That's based on goal difference, is it?
Yeah, goal difference, points total, that sort of thing. So that sort of becomes a mini league, and then that makes up the round of 16. So,
cool.
So pretty much everyone's going through.
Yeah, happy days.
But two teams. So, interesting. Is there any other tournaments that operate like that off the top of your head? I don't think the World Cup operates like that, does it, Bryce? No.
I think they did have the best placed third team in the World Cup. They might have done that. I might be completely wrong there. But I think it's to make sure that there's less kind of dead rubbers, which is good for viewers and stuff like that. So, crack on.
Yeah. Anyway, that's that. That's the Euros. Big couple games coming up this week. We'll try and have we'll review those in the coming days. Let's take a quick look at Australian football now, boys. Obviously, we spoke heavily about Ange Postecoglou last week. That was the Postecoglou pod. Matt Ryan to Celtic. Rumours are happening. There's coaching rumours. Obviously, we've talked about Kevin Muscat, but Ross Aloisi was floated today from Adelaide as being a potential assistant. Matt Ryan to Celtic makes sense, I think. Doesn't it, Bryce?
Definitely. I think Bernd Leno's still got a year remaining at Arsenal, and he'll leave after that. So maybe that gives him a bit of a look in to stay at Arsenal if he wants to become number 1. But then I think Arsenal signed, was it Onana, the Ajax keeper? But he's just been banned for 9 months for alleged substance abuse. Taking a illegal substance for performance enhancing stuff. But I just think it makes more sense, Matt Ryan excelling and starting every single week at Celtic. So he'll have to give up his boyhood club Arsenal to move there. But I think it's a match made in heaven, Postecoglou and Matt Ryan in goals for Celtic to get him back up to the pinnacle of Scottish football.
Yep. Another one, Alex, different sort of topic. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but Simon Hill, Australian commentator, the voice of football, as he's widely known nowadays. He called for a statue of Ange Postecoglou in Melbourne. Do you think is he worthy of a statue, do you think?
No, not quite yet. Calm down, Simon. Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Come on. Back it up. I think, look,
Maybe Simon said that with a bit of tongue in cheek, I must say
Maybe,
that. But nonetheless, he started
the
conversation. Is the Ange Postecoglou statue,
look,
is that fair?
Potentially.
I'd vote for it.
Potentially somewhere along the line. Who knows? Look, we spoke about it last week. He might go to Celtic and might be an absolute flop and back on the scrap heap within a month or two. But who knows? So I think if he does well, and who knows how long he'll go for there, and where his next club will be. So I think he's definitely made or had an imprint on Australian football. That's for sure. So we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, out of anyone in Australian football, currently active, if anyone was potentially going to be given a statue in the years to come, he seems like the most likely source if the trajectory continues the way it's sort of been going. I think, Bryce, is that fair?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he's had the biggest impact. I mean, you've got probably Sam Kerr's another one you'd throw up there as well in terms of what she's achieved in putting Australian football on the map.
Maybe if she wins the Ballon d'Or. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I still think she will. I think even if she doesn't win that, I think she's definitely in line to have one in WA for sure. But yeah, if Ange can, lift Celtic back up and win a Scottish Premier League and get him the Champions League and things like that, then I think that it becomes a real conversation for sure. Definitely, I think the dialogue alone on it is pretty just exciting to have someone of Australian football being talked about being immortalised with a statue, because I think we've kind of lacked that in the past decade or so. So it's good to have that be talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's hope it continues. Quick look at the A-League finals. We're into the semi-finals now. Adelaide got past Brisbane thanks to a Tommy Urich double. They'll play Sydney FC. And then MacArthur, team that joined the league this year, got past the Central Coast Mariners and put an end to their season. So they're into the semis. MacArthur will play Melbourne City, who are without a host of stars, obviously. Granty, what do you reckon? How did you see those games, or how do you see? Maybe let's look forward. Who's, Adelaide v Sydney and MacArthur v Melbourne City. What do you reckon? Who's coming out of those ones?
Yeah, I said, didn't I, a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, that Melbourne City would be the ones who win it. And I still think they're on course to do that. Obviously, they've not played for a week or so, and they're coming up against MacArthur. I actually watched the MacArthur game, and I did feel a bit sorry on Central Coast because they have struggled over the last 4 or 5 seasons, and this year they really, they surprised a lot of people and have done really well. So it was a bit unfortunate, especially in front of such a big crowd at home. You would have liked to have seen them gone through, but MacArthur went down to 10 men. They lost James Meredith late in the second half and then managed to get a goal and go in front and see it out and on the break and win 2-0 comfortably in the end. So I don't know, MacArthur are one of those teams that maybe they could do the upset against City. It'd be crazy to see them in the grand final with it being their first season in the league. Western United came pretty close last year as well, but they didn't make it. So that'd be an interesting one. And Adelaide, they've been at the start of the season, they weren't doing too great, but they've definitely found form midway through the season and then kind of continued that. A bit up and down, but they've done well as well. And Sydney FC are just, I don't know what it is, but whenever I came up against them, they're such a hard team to beat. They're so well organised. They've just got good players throughout the squad. Something inside of me thinks that I'll probably go back on what I said about City because I didn't really think about the players they've lost. But I've got a funny feeling Sydney will probably win it.
Yeah, well, they've been the dominant force in recent times and obviously in A-League history. So history's on their side, I guess. It'd be pretty sad though for Melbourne City if they didn't. You don't want to see them go out in the semis, I guess, especially.
Mate, with their
Bryce?
resources, whatever. Who cares? If they can't do it this year, tough. I got no sympathy for Melbourne City at all if they don't make it.
But why is that? There's a salary cap in place. Obviously, their facilities are better, maybe, but like they still have to abide by the salary cap, do they not, Bryce?
Yeah, but they're able to get I don't know. I just don't like
the
City.
marquees.
It's
They
a
can pay
City
them whatever.
group. They get the marquees. The way they worked around that loophole before about players would be signed by Manchester City rather than loaned to Melbourne City. I think it was Caceres that happened to and things like that. So I don't know. I just don't like City.
There we go. All right, fair enough. Let's look at some. Sort of, I guess, transfer news. Couple stories. I thought it was pretty funny. Or nothing signals a rebuild more than your club releasing 9 players, and that's sort of what's happened at the Newcastle Jets. So if you're a Jets fan, you got to hope that there's plenty of quality brought in. And then a Perth Glory story. Nick D'Agostino is out the door. Granty, quick word on him. What's he like as a young player? What was he like to play with?
Cracking lad, Nick. Yeah, real good guy, good player. I never really found a spot within the starting 11 whilst I was there. Always kind of one of those players who was in and out. And I know Popper. There you go. He smashed him a bit about his weight and being a bit unfit at one point. So there's one player that who did cop a bit of stick in the media from the manager. But I think Nick, he knows himself that he can be up and down in that sense and lack fitness, and he has to take care of himself to keep on top of things. But when he's firing, what a player! I said to Angus the other week, actually, he's probably one of the best for his size, one of the best strikers in the A-League in the air, I believe personally. And he's got a great right foot on him. I think he probably just needs to learn how to control it a bit more and not be as rash sometimes. But I think what an opportunity now. I know Graham Arnold's a massive fan of him. So now going into the Olympics as a free agent, his options are going to be through the roof after that if he has a good tournament. So I think that's all it comes down to, really. Nick's just putting himself in a position where going into a tournament where you're on the world stage and all the eyes are on you, who knows what can come of it. So it's a massive opportunity for him. Yeah, it is in a way. I think that's,
doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, and that's what he got the Olyroos there in the qualifiers, putting great individual performance. Can't remember where they were playing, but yeah, he is a top player.
Rightio. What do you make of the Perth Glory season? Given the sort of turnover that sort of happened, how did you rate their season this year?
I think if they'd had a full squad from the start and the players that they brought in had more time in pre-season, it could have panned out a little differently. I know the Japanese lad and the German centre-back, they were stuck in quarantine and it took them ages for them to get over with the visas and whatnot, so they had a lot of problems there. I think all in all, it wasn't the best season, but you got to see a lot of young players come through who've come through the academy and feature, Stansy, Timmins, Bodnar, lads who all kind of held their own at certain times throughout the season. So there's promising signs there. So I think they can definitely improve next season. I'd like to see them improve next season. So it'll be an interesting one to see who they keep, who they bring in. I don't know anything about who's re-signed or whatnot, so it'll be interesting.
Absolutely, one to watch. You just never know.
What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, probably similar to what you had to say. It was good to see a lot of young players sort of come through. Maybe a bit disappointing at times. Obviously, from a fan's point of view, sad to see Neil Kilkenny not really stay in the team, and kind of like he's been a big player for the Glory over the past couple of seasons. So obviously there's a changing of the guard there with Richard Garcia in at the manager's role. So he wants to stamp his authority on the squad, and that makes sense. But I like Killer. He's a friend of the show. Like him as a player. So sad about that. But I guess you got to look to the future now that you're not there, mate. You got to just hope that these kids can come in and make an impact like you did. And you just wonder though, you still kind of wish the Glory won that title a couple of seasons ago, because you kind of, when are the Glory going to be back up there again competing? Like it kind of feels like it's going to be quite a while again, and that's kind of sad for being a Perth Glory fan in the A-League era, Bryce. Would you not agree? It's kind of, it's been slim pickings at for much of the A-League. So yeah.
Yeah, I think overall definitely a disappointing season. But all things considered, I think the biggest positive to take from it is the likes of Steinsy and Cal Timmins, who didn't get a run and obviously had to go to NPL level after Popovic didn't select them in his squads for that season. To see them fight back, I think that's the best story, and such a huge positive for young lads like them, and great people as well. And to see them get their chance has been amazing this year, and that's been my favourite thing about the entire season. I definitely share your sentiment there on Killer. Really, really gutted to see him go. I think he's a great bloke, and he did so much on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of lifting standards and being and lifting everyone else around him. I think a lot of players got better with him around them as well. So really disappointing to see him go in that manner as well. But I think it's a great opportunity for Richard Garcia to mould his own team now, get another transfer window under his belt. And really, crack on from there. But yeah, I'm still excited about it because of some of the young WA talent they've got in the squad. Just hopefully we get another chance to watch El Maestro, Diego Castro in action again for the next season. But we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, and
that's again the big unknown. That's sort of end of an era once he goes. But if he goes, well, he's going to go eventually, isn't he? But we'll have to wait and see if that happens this year. All right. We're creeping up on the time here, so we'll try and finish up here. We got a couple of questions to pose to the listeners from you both, I believe, but some big stories in the APL. Not much discussion here. David Moyes has signed a 3-year contract extension at West Ham. Fabio Paratici has joined Tottenham as the managing director of football. So I think that's an interesting title. It's not sporting director. It's kind of like, he is running the day-to-day. I mean, it's not the biggest thing, but it's a signal of intent maybe that Daniel Levy isn't going to be there as much on the day-to-day basis. So I think that's significant. Daniel Levy has come out and said that, he doesn't said much, but said what you did expect him to say, that Spurs are only going to do what's right for Spurs in regards to maybe the Harry Kane transfer. United have had a 67 million, 70 million pound bid for Jadon Sancho rejected. So apparently the personal terms are sorted out. There's just United and Dortmund teething out what the actual sale price will be. Nuno Espirito Santo, formerly of Wolves, the manager of Wolves, is set to be appointed the new Everton boss. So interesting. I mean, I kind of
step down for him.
You reckon it's a step down? Oh, maybe.
Sorry.
No, now I realise.
Wolves are a better team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Bigger club though.
We'll have to wait and see. Everton's got the new stadium coming up. And one vicious rumour was Philip Coutinho potentially to Leicester. So don't know how much I believe it. But anyway, that's kind of the wrap up of the APL. But let's get to these questions. Alex, what was the question you wanted to pose to people this week? We challenged you last episode. So what have you got for us?
Oh, okay. So this week I've got, again, 4 answers I need from you. So going back to 2012, the Olympic Stadium in Kiev, final, Spain versus Italy. The game resulted in a 4-0 victory for Spain. Can you name me the goal scorers?
All right, the goal scorers in Spain's victory in the Euro final.
2012, yeah.
All right. So there you go, listeners.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go.
There you go, listeners. That's Grant's question. Maybe I'll add a couple sound effects in there. We'll make it sound way more exciting.
Took me ages to think about it, so. Bryce, I believe you've got one, eh?
All right, so there we go. That's question one. Bryce, hit us.
All right, so I got a big shout out to Goran Pandev, who scored for North Macedonia. I think he's been around forever. Obviously he won the Champions League with Inter back in 2010. Under Mourinho there, he is 37 and still banging them in on the big stage. So my question is, who is the oldest player to have scored at the Euros? And it's not Goran Pandev.
Right,
There's
so
someone older.
Ooh. All right. There you go. Who was the eldest player or the oldest player to score at the Euros, and who scored Spain's goals in the Euro 2012 final? They're the two questions. We will be answering them at the start of the next episode, whenever that is, and we will put a call out on Twitter, on Instagram, to see if anyone can answer those questions. But I think that's it. I think that's us, boys. Any final comments? Anything we missed?
Oh, good. I need to get the pizza oven on.
Pizza oven's on. We're being summoned out. All right,
Scotland
Grunty.
are kicking off.
Scotland are kicking off. There we go.
Yep.
It's 11 p.m. now here in Sydney. We're going to wrap this up. We'll review the games in the coming days. Thanks, boys. But thanks, everybody that tuned in. We'll speak to you again very soon.